it's Shale the Folk Herbalist. Long time no chat. As you can see, things look a little bit different around here. We have a new little addition into the family, and I will have to say pregnancy and postpartum has taken up a lot of my last year. I don't know how long it's been since I posted on YouTube. It's definitely been at least a year. But now that we're kind of in this new season, I'm feeling a lot more kind of creative flow, and I'm excited to get back to sharing on this platform and in my Apothecary, and, you know, enjoying all of those things while we're soaking in this new chapter with this sweet little guy who joined us in September. And today I just kind of wanted to talk about my fertility journey. I know these kinds of videos were really helpful for me as I was looking to heal my fertility, and if anybody is interested in doing the same. First and foremost, I do want to acknowledge that this is kind of a sensitive topic for a lot of people. Fertility can be complicated and tricky and come with a lot of emotions, and every body is very different. So I also want to acknowledge that I'm not somebody who necessarily experienced infertility, but it did take about 6 months when we first started trying to get pregnant. And I think there's a lot of factors that kind of went into that. So I want to speak to that with an air of sensitivity, in that I know there are people who are experiencing infertility where they're trying for years and looking for answers and maybe aren't getting the ones that they're hoping to receive. So just wanted to acknowledge that. But I also want to point out that fertility is a biomarker. So even if it's not something that you necessarily are trying to do as far as getting pregnant, or you don't want children, we should really strive to optimize our fertility, just because if we're low stress and we're having regular cycles, if you're a menstruating person, you know, we're nourishing ourselves well. If we have optimal fertility, it also means that we are optimal in our overall wellness as well. So that's something to take into consideration. And then also thinking about fertility as as fertility is energy. You know, if we're seeking to optimize our fertility in our own bodies, if we also do it in spirit and mentality, you know, we call in fertile lifestyle, like manifesting abundance and fertility amongst our community, and that we are living in relationship with one another in a positive and abundant way, whether that's financial or whether you're seeking more positive relationships in your life. You know, fertility can encompass so many more things than necessarily just having a child. Or getting pregnant, if that's not something that you are interested in at this time. So when I speak to my fertility journey, I want to speak across kind of 3 key areas that I made changes in, or where I added to in order to kind of heal the fertility issues that I was having. And for me personally, my fertility issue was that I was having missing cycles, and it made it hard to know when I was ovulating. Obviously, if you're not having a menstrual cycle, then you can't get pregnant. We're gonna pause for a second. Okay, little dude is fed and back down for a nap, so I'm gonna try to quickly finish this video before he wakes up. Motherhood in a nutshell. So I wanted to talk about how I healed my fertility across 3 key areas. The first being lifestyle, the second being kind of the food supplementation, nutrition, herbs kind of area. And then the last one is kind of the more, what I would consider woo-woo, or more kind of spiritual or energetic ways in which I went about healing my fertility. So first and foremost, talking about lifestyle, I learned a lot about things like endocrine disruptors. And unfortunately, not to get all the world is toxic, but there is a lot of toxins that we run into on a daily basis that especially are endocrine disruptors. So much of what we use for like Tupperware is plastic, or there are chemicals even in the receipt that you use at the grocery store, that by just touching it for a few seconds actually has elements in it that are endocrine disruptors, which impact your fertility. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in, we run into those types of endocrine disruptors all the time. Think about things like fragrances, perfumes, scented candles, that are scented with, non-natural scents, or chemicals within those, cleaning supplies. Like, it just kind of runs the gamut, unfortunately. So some of the things that I've tried to implement into my lifestyle is we cook only with cast iron pans. We completely got rid of all of our non-stick or Teflon type pans, and already like within a few cycles noticed a difference there just by cooking with non-toxic cookware. We also use things like glass for our Tupperware versus plastic, silicone, those types of things that are a lot healthier, and don't like kind of leach chemicals into your body. The next thing that I did that I think is so important, and especially for anybody who has a menstrual cycle to do anyway, is I learned how to really track my cycles. So ever since I was a teenager, I would track if my period happened, right? I think that's like the easiest thing that we learn, but we're not really taught to look for biosigns of ovulation or when ovulation is occurring. If we're noticing different patterns with our period, I just kind of tracked, did I get a period that month? I didn't really care if it was late or early, short or long. Like, I just was like, okay, I got a period, we're good, till the next month. But when you're trying to try for a baby or trying to really understand if your ovulation is optimal, it's really important to kind of understand the patterns within your menstrual cycle. So I was learning, if I had a shorter period, that there might have been something going on with the uterine lining, or if my period lasted a really long time, when it doesn't normally do that, maybe there's something going on there as well. And I got to where I could really pinpoint my ovulation within a few days, and like really knew when I was ovulating. So I learned a lot about the fertility awareness method, which I think is a really effective form of either birth control or when you're trying to try for a baby, if that's something you're interested in. I think it's a really effective way to really get to know your body and your cycles. I will asterisk this with, it's really only helpful if you have a regular cycle. Not that it's not helpful, but it gets a little bit trickier, and you might want to work with somebody who understands cycles a little bit better, to make sure that you're kind of on track. So shout out to my beautiful friend Julia. I will link her information down below, and tag her so that you all can go to her website. She helped me through her beautiful course better understand how to track my cycle and understand where there might be caveats, or where I might be having issues that I could intervene on to more optimize my cycle. And then the other thing that I tried as far as like a lifestyle adjustment is looking at the way that I was exercising. So post-COVID, I really got into running. I really fell in love with it. And as somebody who never used to like long distance running, I did track in high school, but I was always a short distance sprinter. If you asked me to go more than 400 meters, I was upset with you. But really fell in love with it in my adult life. But that being said, I'm also cheap, and I didn't want to pay for things like a trainer. So I was doing things like guiding myself through things like marathon and half marathon training. The issue is I made it through marathon training, was really like careful and meticulous about that because my only goal was to complete a marathon, show that I could do it. So I really eased into that. I took a long time. I took over a year to train for a marathon, but then I started getting kind of more into half marathon training, and following my first marathon is when I started getting into the more half marathon training, and I was a lot more lax about it this time around, and the goal was just to try to see if I could start knocking off different races, right? Like I wanted to do one in the spring and I wanted to do one in the fall, but the problem is, especially with a fall race, is that you have to get through the summer, right? And the summer is so busy, and in the year that we were really starting to try for a baby, I was also running a lot. And the race that I was kind of orienting towards as one of my goals in the fall just was like kind of coming into conflict with a lot of events going on through the summer. I was also finishing up my herbal apprenticeship. I was traveling a lot. Work was really busy. And so I was in this situation where I would miss a lot of my training runs and then on the weekend force myself through like a 5-mile run. So runners on the internet, don't come for me. I know that is not the way to do it now. But essentially I was putting my body into a lot of stress. So I did start to notice I would miss a cycle here and there. And then it got to where I was missing cycles for 3 months and then 4 months. And so that was extremely frustrating. But I didn't quite connect it with the fact that the way that I was training was putting my body into a significant period of stress. Because if you're, forcing yourself or working out in a way that is putting yourself into like these high cortisol levels or straining your body's getting the signal like, oh, I can't get pregnant because we're under a significant amount of stress, or I'm not getting enough nutrition, or I'm putting too much energy into this. So we're going to conserve in other ways. And so I think that's really kind of the root cause of where my fertility issues kind of started. So I started to do things like more kind of low impact workouts and just took a pause. Also at the guidance of a really incredible midwife that I worked with throughout my entire fertility and pregnancy journey, who was just like, you know what, why don't we take a pause on your running and see if things start to kind of come back into place. Really glad I got that advice, as much as it's hard for somebody who likes to stay active to take a pause in those kinds of ways, but it forced me to kind of reflect on how I was achieving my goals and whether or not they were like actually healthy or positive. So we took a pause on running and I switched over to things like kind of focusing more on weightlifting. That's something I've done for years. And then also other types of low impact exercises like Pilates. I started taking reformer Pilates classes, loved them. And then of course, yoga, was able to return back to yoga and mindfulness and breath work. And so while I took a step back, it also helped me to fall in love with these other types of movement practices and just kind of love on my body in a new way, while also trying to achieve the goal of optimal fertility. So next I will jump into kind of the food, supplement, herbs area. First and foremost, this is going to be a more controversial one, and I can already feel kind of the tension in my body as I talk about this. I had to change my diet for the last 7 years or so. My husband and I both followed more of a plant-based diet. We would kind of fluctuate in and out of veganism, where we cut out all animal products. Why this is kind of hard to talk about is, one, I know people have very strong opinions about diet and lifestyle on the internet, especially, but I also very much believed in the plant-based lifestyle. Like when I first did it, feel like it really did change my life for the better. Like I felt healthier than I ever had. I had more energy than I ever had. My skin was clear. I never got sick. My immune system was amazing. And I do feel like it can be a very beneficial lifestyle for everyone for short periods of time. Like it might be something I kind of circulate in and out of, but I don't believe that it's necessarily optimal anymore for myself or as like a permanent lifestyle change. That being said, what I learned from veganism was things like being aware of where your food is sourced from, how to cut out more processed foods that are prevalent in our diet, how to get creative with food. Like we had a lot of fun in the kitchen trying to figure out like alternatives, or looking at goals like trying to incorporate more of a rainbow on our plate. So I do think I learned a lot about nutrition as a whole. I also loved the impact that I was making from a lifestyle perspective, using less water, contributing to less harm, thinking about my impact on a global scale. But at the end of the day, when I also started noticing impacts to my cycle, I also started noticing very clear signs from my body trying to tell me, hey, you're having mineral deficiencies, you're having nutritional deficiencies. My hair started falling out in clumps. Like I'd get out of the shower and brush my hair and it would just be like handfuls of hair coming out. My nails were so brittle. I started getting these deep under eye circles. They're kind of back now, but that's also because I'm a new mom, so don't come for me. I also started noticing things like my skin just breaking out. I never really was anybody who struggled with acne, but I was getting kind of the hormonal, cystic acne along my chin and cheeks down here, just brain fog really bad. I was just exhausted all the time. Like it just felt like I didn't have the energy levels that I used to. And so there's just very clear signs that my body was telling me, hey, we need more. Even with like iron supplementation or looking at different ways to try to balance out my diet as a vegan, I still feel like I was missing a lot, and just had to kind of finally listen to that. After sitting with it for a while, started incorporating more animal-based foods back into my diet, such as chicken or fish, and just noticed right away I felt so much better. You can call that the placebo effect if you want to, but it was just the way my body changed. My hair started being healthier. My skin started clearing up. I started feeling better energy. My cycles were starting to improve. I was starting to see like deep red blood in my cycles where I used to not see that as much. It'd be more pale or brown, which is indicating, I'm not necessarily getting like the nutrition that I need, or also that my cycles are kind of leaving blood behind at times, and not fully shedding the way it's supposed to. While we could argue that maybe a lot of that's mental, it's also very clear that my body was responding in a positive way when I made those changes. Regardless, like my husband and I still try to make good food choices if we're going to be using animal products. Like we try to eat locally as much as possible. We try to eat organic, grass-fed as much as possible. We're willing to pay $10 for eggs when our chickens aren't producing to make sure that they're fully free range, like verified free range, not just like, how the industry likes to market it as free range, but they're all stuck in a big pen, right? Trying to make good choices to still have a positive impact on the food that we eat, despite the fact that we're eating more animal products, and what kind of comes with that. So, okay, next we will talk supplements. So while I'm about to show you my supplement rotation, which was a fat stack of supplements, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not saying that this is like the magic fix, and I'm not saying that you should depend on supplementation. It should be something that is incorporated into lifestyle and diet changes. I will go through these because I do feel like they helped make sure that I had like the mineral storage that I needed to have optimal fertility, and to help kind of speed up where I might have had some of those nutritional deficiencies from being previously like solely plant-based. So I will go through these rapid fire. So first and foremost, I started using organ meat supplements. I was quite skeptical of these because I was like, first of all, those sound disgusting to eat things like desiccated liver pills. But I do think these were really helpful. And so the two that I really worked a lot with is this kind of ancient nutrition beef liver supplement, and then also this pregnancy and fertility supplement that has like ovaries and colostrum and freeze-dried oyster in addition to liver. And I kind of oscillated between the two of these. I also worked with CoQ10 also to up my mineral storage, because we often don't get enough things like magnesium in our diet, especially as women or people who have menstrual cycles. We also don't really tend to get enough sodium or potassium in our diets. So another supplement that I really liked to work with are these deep ocean mineral drops. These are also Nutrius brand, which is the same that makes these fertility supplements. These are super easy to just add to water, to a smoothie. I would add these to my electrolyte drinks or herbal infusions, just to get a little bit extra kind of mineral storage in my body. Also super important if you're somebody who actually wants to have a baby and wants to get pregnant, because pregnancy takes a lot of your mineral reserves. So super important to make sure you're building those up pre-baby. I also worked with a B complex supplement, obviously a daily prenatal. Even though I live here in Colorado, working with vitamin D and K. K helps to kind of help your body absorb the vitamin D, so I like the combo. And then last but not least, magnesium glycinate. Love this stuff. Like, helps to kind of regulate your digestive system. Again, magnesium tends to be something we're like so deficient in. These help keep your nervous system regulated as well, help you sleep. Like, just love you, magnesium. This will be something I take for the rest of my life, regardless. All right, and lastly, the herbs that I tended to work with. So I focus solely on things like nourishment. So focusing on nourishing herbs, things like nettle and oat straw, chickweed. Oh, I loved chickweed. Dandelion root, all those types of herbs that really help to build, again, your mineral reserves, your nutrition, looking at the vitamins that your body needs. These beautiful plants provide a lot of that. Think of the things like wild weeds that we often just kind of dismiss. Those are some of the most nutrient dense herbs on the planet. So I'd make deep, nourishing overnight infusions of those and drink them throughout the day. I also worked with herbs that are nervines, so things that would help to restore the nervous system. Because again, I was under stress at work, stress with training, stress of the trying to conceive journey can bring up a lot of anxiety. So always working on kind of restoring my nervous system. So working with herbs like damiana or passion vine, lavender, skullcap was a lifesaver to stop those kind of racing thoughts that I have a lot of the time. Chamomile, I would kind of work with those in the evening or late afternoon, just kind of start rotating them in to help with kind of calming racing thoughts or restoring frayed nerves. And that was really helpful as well. And then last but not least, when I was experiencing missing cycles, one thing I didn't want to necessarily do was just go get on like a birth control pill. I just don't like how my body feels when I'm on those. Also, I don't feel like it gets at the root issue of why your cycle is missing. It's kind of more, in my opinion, a little bit of a quick fix. That's not to say it won't be helpful for other people who are experiencing something similar, but I wanted to heal the reason why my cycle wasn't happening on a regular basis. So whenever I needed to kind of jumpstart my cycle, or if my cycle was delayed, or to try to kind of get it back quickly, I worked with Rosemary Gladstar's Bring on the Moon protocol. I swear by this protocol if you're somebody who's also dealing with missing cycles due to like stress or things like that. I would usually use it around the time that I'm supposed to be menstruating. I think you would work with it for 2 or 3 days, and then the next month usually my cycle would return, or within 2 months it would return. And so it worked with herbs that are emmenagogues, which means they help bring on your menstrual cycle, and it was just kind of working with tea blends. And then I also would kind of rotate in other herbs that felt right intuitively for me that were also kind of emmenagogue in nature. So things like motherwort, also different types of kind of womb nourishing herbs like lady's mantle and red raspberry leaf, whenever it felt like it would be supportive. All right, and then the last category is kind of more of the energetic or more kind of woo-woo spiritual witchy ways that I would support my fertility and cycle nourishment as well. The first I'm going to talk about is not necessarily like woo-woo. I loved it, but I worked a lot with acupuncture. That wasn't something I ever did prior to getting pregnant or prior to trying to optimize my fertility, but I loved it for kind of helping rebalance energy within my body, helping with things like anxiety. Also, again, helps to kind of restore the energetics within my body. The second thing that I did as a recommendation from my midwife was Mayan womb massage. What this entailed was sitting in kind of a ceremony space with a practitioner. And the practitioner that I worked with was somebody who actually studied with the abuelas in Guatemala. learning the indigenous practices and traditions of this ancient Mayan womb massage technique. And I will say, again, a little asterisk side note here, to be cognizant if this is a support that you're also seeking out, that you are seeking somebody who is very respectful of the teachings, works with indigenous practitioners to learn the practice, and it's just something that I could see being kind of gentrified or whitewashed in a lot of ways. So do some research and work with a practitioner that is reputable in that way. So what Mayan womb massage entailed for me was sitting in ceremony space where we would actually do a yoni steam beforehand. She would speak blessings over the herbs that we worked with in the yoni steam, and would speak prayers and blessings over me, ask me to invite in my guides and my spiritual team into the space. I would also give gratitude and thanks to the plants. And we would start with that kind of a session first, and then move into the actual massage portion, where she would, again, as she brought massage to the womb space area, which helps with like blood flow circulation and removing any kind of stagnant energy that might exist within the womb. Would also use plant brushing techniques using things like pine or mugwort or these other types of plants that are kind of energetically cleansing as well. And then also, again, speak prayers over me. She would give me offerings of chocolate, which was really beautiful, and just, again, give gratitude and thanks, and speak to my spirit baby and ask that my womb be a place that can hold life and that can heal from anything that had happened in the past, such as sexual trauma or stagnant energy that might exist there. So just something that was really beautiful. And within 2 sessions of that, I got pregnant. So I don't want to say there's a direct correlation there, but the coincidence is pretty striking. Also, in the realm of kind of energy healing, I also did a Reiki session, again, focusing on bringing energy and light into the womb space. I am somebody who does have sexual trauma in my past, and so that was something where we could do things like cutting energetic cords and removing any kind of energy ties that might make my womb a place that is not necessarily feeling like it could be optimal for conception, or where there needed to be some energetic healing and cleansing of that space as well. Some kind of enlightening to the root chakra and the sacral chakra, just to make sure there's good balance energetically there. My Reiki session was very special, and actually, as she came out of the session, my practitioner said that she saw images of a little boy in the spring, which is really incredible, because when we did get pregnant, we found out that we were having a little boy on the spring equinox. So making those types of ties together too is also really beautiful. And then the last thing I'll share is, before we actually started trying for a baby, I bought a little journal, which was a couple years prior when we first started talking about having a child. And I would write to the spirit of my baby, talking about things that we were doing to, heal ourselves, or dreams that I had for this future child, just kind of welcoming in their energy into kind of our existence, and starting to really kind of call them in as somebody who would join our family eventually. So while that's not necessarily like fertility healing, I do think there was something to that, where I was starting to build that connection and that relationship with the spirit of our child, and starting to kind of cultivate that relationship. So also, it'll be something really beautiful that I can share with him when he's older, just so that he can see kind of what this whole journey looked like and all the things that we manifested together. And yeah, I just think it'll be a really special gift one day, when he's older and can appreciate it. So yeah. So anyway, that's kind of my journey. I'm sure I'm missing things on this list, but if you're somebody who is looking to heal their fertility, hopefully this is helpful for you. I wish you so much love on this journey. It can be one with a lot of roller coaster ups and downs, roller coaster of emotions. It can feel lonely at times, so my heart goes out to you if this is something that you're experiencing. But I hope this gives you some more tools in your tool belt. Send you all the love. So blessed be.